All right. Welcome everyone into episode 15 of the Hooley Brothers podcast. We are 8 days away from the bracket coming out on Selection Sunday. We have a pretty good slate of games today as we get into the nitty gritty here. Some conferences obviously into their conference tournaments. The bigger conference is kind of wrapping up conference play before that season starts. So, Mike, how you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing because of what you just said. This time, this time in 8 days, we'll be kind of doing the math and seeing what team's going to be in, what team's going to be in, kind of getting it down to like the final 70, and then seeing who's like the last two going to get cut later on at night. So I'm very excited for it. Can't wait.
Yeah, and I think we've said it before. It's going to be an interesting year because I don't know the team. I feel like there's a lot of times there's like, oh, this team got snubbed, this team got snubbed, and it's like I feel like the teams that are on the bubble, one weirdly this year are like a lot of the blue blood programs, but also I don't feel like anyone's running away with it. I feel like there's teams that are really stumbling down the stretch that still have a chance to get in. So I don't know if we're gonna have that like immediate snub because I feel like say Duke or Michigan State or whatever gets left out, you'd be like, well, they kind of deserved it. They didn't really play too well down the stretch. So I think it's gonna be an interesting year again as far as who is on the outside looking in and kind of if that's deserved or not. Because I think, like I said, there's been times for teams to jump and take this chance and they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, and even on the other side, you've seen teams that you thought were solidified on the bubble, like
Mm-hmm.
like solidified in the tournament, or like losing their way onto the bubble.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna mention them later in the show, but like Rutgers was pretty much they were ranked at the beginning of the year, like in December. They're
yeah, yeah.
anywhere from like 15 to 25, and now they're
Mm-hmm.
like on the last four byline. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of these teams just aren't taking advantage of their opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So, uh, like you said here, we're getting down to the nitty gritty, and we're into so we have some conference tournaments that are underway. So, first off, we touched on a little last week. One of the best names out there, Arch Madness for the Missouri Valley. So that's most likely going to come down between Loyola Chicago and Drake. So again, I would think that Loyola is in no matter what. But Drake, again, if you are one of these bubble teams, you're rooting for Loyola because Drake really trying to get in there and steal that bid. And we saw, I think it was recently, right? Did they have kind of a 2 game set and that got split, right?
Yes, it was. Pretty sure. I forget what the order was. Loyola Chicago one game pretty handedly, and then I think they came. I think that was like on a Friday night, and then like on a
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, it was a
Yeah, yeah.
grit and grind game, or I think it was like 50-48 in overtime was the final score, with Drake being the victor.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's this afternoon's the semifinals. So at 1 p.m., it's Loyola Chicago hosting the great Indiana State. Shout
Oh
out,
yeah, shit, Larry Legend.
and then Missouri State will be playing Drake in the afternoon. So
Okay.
that's only a 2 point spread. So Missouri State
It's
could
well,
make
yeah.
it happen. But
Yeah, yeah. Again, we think it'll come down to Loyola and Drake, but who knows? It's Arch Madness.
yeah.
You never know what you're going to get out there.
And as we said right
Yeah,
now,
go ahead.
according to Joe Lunardi, they are the last Drake right now is the last team getting a bye from the last four in.
Oh, okay. So we can definitely see, no matter how this thing shakes up, if it's. I mean, I think if Drake loses to today, they're in trouble. But I think
Yeah.
if you're even competitive, there's a good chance that both teams get in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, and that's also a lot
So yeah,
of schools, like for instance, like Duke, Michigan State, that are in the last four in, first four out type of
might be
range.
some technical difficulties there, Mike. I hear you talking. I don't know if it's my end that's not working.
You're coming in
So
crystal clear on my end, and this is the recording end. So if that would be one side,
can you
two,
hear me at all?
yeah, you're perfect.
Oh man, we're having quite the technical thing right now. I can't hear Mike. Please bear with us here as we try to figure out what's going on.
I am at a separate location today, so we're fine.
Hold on, everyone. All right, everyone. Sorry for the brief technical issue there. Gotta love this Xfinity Wi-Fi that I'm getting and paying so much for, but it doesn't work. Anyway, so Mike, why don't we kind of hop back in? I know, and we're a little unsure where we left off, but kind of seeming like there is a decent chance that out of the Missouri Valley they get two bids in no matter what. Like I said, unless Drake loses today, I think that would really obviously be a huge blow to them. But other than that, it seems like they should be getting two teams in.
Yeah, the one thing that does go against them, like you said, they are the blue bloods on the bubble, which means they have a lot
Mm-hmm.
more opportunities to beat some highly ranked opponents.
Yeah.
So they might need to get in and steal the bid, not steal the bid, if they're on the bubble, but like kind of
To
solidify them
secure the
if
exactly.
you expect teams like Duke and Michigan State to like beat Michigan or Duke to beat Florida State or something like that. So
Yeah.
definitely that's why we watch.
Yes, exactly. So we keep an eye on everything, and then also the A10 underway. I know you said you have here that the Bonnies are 10 seed. Is that like the projection in the bracket as it stands?
Yeah, I'm going off of any phrase I'm saying. I'm going off of Lenardi. He updated it
Okay. All right.
last night around 11:30. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of just going off of that. So the A10 is underway. Their tournament's very weird as they're playing the semifinals today, but I don't think their championship is until next Sunday.
Is that there's a conference that always does that. Is it them?
Might be them because I always,
No, I'm thinking it might be. It's like, isn't it weird that like America East that does that too?
American
I
East
don't
does
know.
that too.
Yeah.
I feel like they like might do the semifinals and then like next Saturday morning at 11.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always watching the Albany games because they have a dude named Hooley.
Peter
Actually,
Hooley.
one of the best,
So follow him on Twitter.
one of the best moments in college basketball history at the buzzer beater to secure their bid a couple years ago after he
Yeah.
left the team with his mom dying of cancer. If you haven't looked up that moment, great moment in college basketball history.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But anyways, right now Lunardi has St. Bonaventure as the 10 seed and St. Louis and VCU both in the bubble. VCU being one of the last four buys and St. Louis being one of the first four out. So that is a big semifinal matchup between St. Louis and St. Bonaventure. And then VCU is playing Davidson in the other semifinal matchup.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So both.
I did see an article on the side said beware of bid stealers like Davidson. So I don't think they're a slouch team. So they're
Yeah.
good games in the A10.
It's a good Final Four in that tournament for sure. So that it seems like there's something at stake for all of them really there. Because again, if Bonaventure loses in the semis here, who's to say they're not kind of pushed more to that 11, 12 seed range? Then maybe you're at risk of having to play in the first four. And then also St. Louis and VC are teams that really need wins in this thing too. And like you mentioned, a team like Davidson, I mean, Sneaky could steal a bit here. They're not going to make it on their own. So if they win two games, then obviously they get in. You have to think Bonaventure gets in some way, and then it leaves St. Louis and maybe even VC on the outside looking in as well. So that's very interesting Final Four of that tournament.
Yeah, because I'm also not sure because like it has like in the bracket St. Bonaventure because they are the 1 seed as -AQ.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if they're off the bubble because they're getting the qualifying bid or
Got it.
so it's gonna be interesting because they haven't played
That's
that.
true because it's all projection, right? Like his projection has them winning that tournament, so that's why they're
But even just looking at records, St. Bonaventure is 14-4 and St. Louis is 14-5. So
yeah. So I
it
mean,
seems like it makes
again, it's a weird year, obviously.
so it seems like that makes sense. That should be the 10 seed at the qualifying bid. Where I'm assuming whoever loses the tournament, the two teams that lose the tournament are going to be in the bubble. The one team that gets it will probably end up being a 10 seed, being the AQ.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
a lot at stake there.
Yeah, so that's something we'll definitely keep our eyes on as well as we get kind of closer to, again, we're gonna have an eye on everything. I think going into this final week of the season, but especially these, once we get to the semis of these conference tournaments. So yeah, quickly kind of recapping what happened since our last show. Again, I know we did a late night Tuesday. It got posted on Wednesday here. But so Wednesday night, again, the big ranked game of the night was in the Big East with Villanova and Creighton. So Villanova able to take down Creighton, and I saw that very controversial thing happening with Coach McDermott over at Creighton. So kind of a wild couple days for them, and coming off this game on Wednesday.
Yeah, so they had a tough upset, I believe, at the hands of Xavier last Saturday, then came into Nova and kind of early on, Nova really took control of that game. So they seem to be kind of in a downfall right now. They do have a nice home game to end off the season today, I believe, against Butler. I know they just upset Nova last Sunday, but hopefully the return to Omaha will kind of level them out going into the tournament, especially now that they have to use the new coach as McDermott willingly stepped down or at least taking a leave of absence after his controversial comments. But I think looking at the other side of the coin, Nova was kind of struggling down the stretch, and they really did have a big blow, losing one of the Wooden All-American finalists, Colin Gillespie, going down to injury. And when they talked to Jay Wright after the game, you could see the hurt in his face, saying how it was not looking good. And my heart really goes out for him. He was on that team a couple years ago that beat Michigan in the final, but then since then they of course, that was his freshman year, and of course, his last 2
Mhm.
years getting the tournament taken away due to COVID-19 last year. And now, oh,
Yeah.
so I go heart goes out to the kid. Seems like he was a great leader of the team, and I feel like on the basketball court, that's a tough blow for Nova because a lot of them saw them as a two-trick team with him and Robinson Earl, the other finalists. So it's going to be really tough for Jay Wright's team to make a deep run without Colin Gillespie.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I think, kind of a sidebar from a, fan or if they got a bracket perspective, that's something to keep in mind. Maybe they do get upset earlier in the tournament, then, maybe they're not going to go on quite as deep of a run if Gillespie still is out. And yeah, like you were saying before, your heart definitely goes out to him. And I really hope that he's able to recover. Maybe it's hopefully not as bad as they think. But yeah, I always considered him kind of Archidiakono 2.0 a little
Mhm.
bit because again they look very similar and then kind of I think very similar style of play as well. 4 year starter there or 4 years on the team rather. So yeah, obviously hopefully he can the diagnosis isn't too bad that he can get back on the court. Otherwise, like you said, last 2 years of being on the team having it be back to back with COVID and then now the injury would obviously be crushing. But then yeah, then when we went to Thursday, like I said, it was mostly we kind of have it written down here, mostly chalk. Michigan able to handle Michigan State, no problem. Baylor takes down Oklahoma State, despite I think Cade Cunningham had a really good game the other night. And
Yeah,
then he kind of like blew his or he like rolled his ankle right in that game.
24 points. So
Yeah,
we'll get to it when we preview today's games, but he's out of action today. So
yeah.
probably I think it's
Mhm.
more precautionary before the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, and did you hear? I don't know if you heard that stat the other day. I briefly tuned into that bench mob podcast, and their record's like insanely good if he scores less than 14 points, which is something you wouldn't think from someone who's obviously like the leader of your team. But Oklahoma State's record's like 11-1 if he scores like under 14 points or something like that.
Yeah, allow him to get into facilitating and not needing to put the team on his back. I think
Hmm.
him missing a couple games earlier in the year did did wonders for them because he was able to let the rest of the team kind of score and not rely on him so much.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think getting him back on top of the confidence for everyone else was the key to them getting hot down the stretch. I mean, winning at Baylor is tough, so I'm not gonna,
Yeah, exactly. And
especially yeah, so I'm not gonna give them too much flack for that, especially after the winning streak they went on before this game.
yeah. So you mentioned out today, and we'll get to the Saturday slate in just a bit here. But yeah, I saw kind of tweets going around about that, and certainly hope that that's another injury that's hopefully not as bad as it uh, maybe looked at first, and hopefully he's able to kind of get back in line for the tournament here. But yeah, Kansas they had a tight one with UTEP as I see here. So hey, when's a win at this point of the year? As long as you don't actually lose, that's all that really matters. And then Texas taking down Oklahoma as well on the road. Did you have anything else to add there, Mike?
More of just I'm so confused by Kansas this year. Like I thought they were gonna
Yeah.
start, but then like they had a very similar scare, I think in December where they almost lost to North Dakota State. Like they needed
Hmm.
the same like tie game with a minute left, go ahead shot, foul, win by 4 or 5 points.
Hmm.
So it's like that game was tough, and then they went on a losing streak, and they're like, oh, they're good again. They beat Baylor, and then they kind of slipped back down, play down in their competition. So I have no idea what to expect of them. They're the most confusing team to me. And then
Yeah, I know what you mean because sometimes it's like they're like on the edge of the rankings, even like down at those low 20s. Then I feel like the last few weeks, I'm like, oh, is Kansas like a dark horse? Are they going to come in and like really do something? And now, like you mentioned, kind of here, they've been a little sloppy these last few games. So yeah, really hard to figure out Bill Self's team this year.
yeah, I feel like I can see like just like a heartbreaking second weekend defeat.
Yeah, or even end of the end of the first weekend, kind of depending on how the bracket shapes up. It's something that once they get to that second round game versus legit opponent, it's going to be like
Like a 6 or 7.
which Kansas shows up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, is it going to be? I could easily see them blowing someone out of the water or losing. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, Jayhawks are certainly tough to figure out this week. But obviously, I mean, they did have the huge win against Baylor, so recently. So hopefully, building on that, remembering that going into that.
And then on the other game, the Texas Oklahoma, again, that was the game you kind of previewed as the two teams kind of dipping in the wrong direction.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think the team that needed to win more actually lost this game because that makes it what now 4 straight for Oklahoma, and now
Yeah, yeah.
against ranked opponents. Where Texas has kind of been up and down. Like you see their skill, but like they can get
Hmm.
streaky. Like they have the 3 guards in the backcourt, and then Greg Brown and Jericho, Sims are kind of like their starting five, and I can tell some nights they're on, some nights they're off, and it just seemed like they had just enough plays down the stretch to get the W here. So, and that's another win from them, especially because they only really have beaten Kansas as a highly ranked opponent in the Big 12. So this is a good break even with them. Both teams were on the road.
Yeah.
And you can even say Oklahoma only beat them the first time because that was when they were dealing with their COVID issues. So big win for Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, kind of shifting gears towards today's slate here. We have two big games on the schedule, Illinois and Ohio State going at it. And that could potentially, I mean, I think more so in the case of Illinois, but a real statement for pushing for that one seed. If Ohio State wins, maybe they slowly start to sneak their way back into that conversation. But if Illinois wins, and provided nothing goes absolutely terrible in the Big Ten tournament, I think they're really on track to get that number one.
Yeah, I'd say if they get this win, especially because I believe it's in Ohio State, at Ohio State, right?
I could definitely let me double check that. I definitely believe you.
It's at Ohio State. Dude, how
Yeah,
do
in
they get so
Columbus.
many
Okay.
home games against these ranked teams? Like they hosted Michigan, they hosted Iowa, now they're hosting Illinois. They're gonna lose them all. But if Illinois can get this another big road win, that would make it at Michigan, at Ohio State in 1 week, and I think that sort of solidifies them as the one seed. Like I don't see any other team having that much of a resume.
Yeah, I think like I said, unless something like they lost like their first game of the Big Ten tournament, and even
So,
then,
Minnesota or something.
Yeah, like again, I think unless something really, really drastic happens there, then they seem like they're definitely on track for a one. Because the top three, again, unless something tragic happens with them, seems like it's pretty much guaranteed going to be Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan. So just kind of figuring out that fourth, and Illinois is definitely, I'd say, the leader in the clubhouse right now.
Yeah, because I also tuned into that same podcast, and then it said like the betting lines for like the top three are like minus 1,000.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's about like, oh my god, so much money. And like, yeah, you won $100. So I mean, it's free money if you think about it. If you're willing to put that much on the line.
Yeah.
And then later on, the other ranked matchup, Oklahoma State and West Virginia. So Oklahoma State's been a real hot team as of late. Before they kind of ran into that Baylor game, I feel like they've been really trending upwards, sweeping Bedlam, all that. So obviously gonna be tough today without K in the lineup. But as you were kind of saying earlier, maybe they work the ball around a little bit more and are able maybe to find another way to win.
I mean, it is really tough. West Virginia, like it's a really good team. It's especially at West Virginia, that's tough for them a weekend.
Yeah.
Loss. So I still think they're going to be playing confidently into the Big 12 tournament and then of course, NCAA tournament. But it's going to be a 1-2 week for them.
Yeah.
But I think they're still going to go in confident, like they won all 3 games.
Right, and it's not like you're losing to any. I mean, again, Baylor's a 1 seed, and then West Virginia. I mean, if all things go right there, they're pushing for a 2, and maybe even still, if chaos happened, pushing for that 1.
And like I say, unless they really fall apart, I think they have a 2 seed locked up. It would just
exactly.
It would take a miracle for them to go to 3. I think not a miracle, but it would be tough for them to go up or down either way. But they could
lose this game and then have some trouble in the Big 12 tournament as well.
So yeah, I think you got to chalk this up as it is what it is week for Oklahoma State, and then just get some new reports and kind of let their
exactly
play well.
You're not gonna grab one of these top 8 seeds in the tournament. You're not gonna fall out of the tournament. Just try to get Cade healthy and
hopefully in that 4 or 5 range. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So so those are kind of the 2 big ones today. There's a lot of ranked teams on the road today, Mike, and I know you wrote in our notes upsets ? And it's funny that you put that down because as we speak, about to head into the half, we have Leonard Hamilton and the Florida State Seminoles at Notre Dame right now, and they are losing 47-31. So not even by a few points, they're significantly down. Notre Dame trying to add to that total right now. They don't quite hit it at the buzzer there. So yeah, they're going to be going in with a 16-point lead into the half. So a little surprising there. Again, an 11th ranked team going into Notre Dame was only 9-14 this year. So a little bit of a surprising start to that game.
Yeah, Notre Dame's not really that good this year, but I think early on they did play Ohio State pretty closely and during the ACC Big Ten Challenge. So, but outside of that, Notre Dame's been pretty bad. Again, that was BC literally just beat them, so that I think that says all you need to know about the Fighting Irish this year. But looking across the board at other ranked teams on the road, you see Alabama going down to the Tom Crean's Georgia. I don't know. Like they're 7.5 point favorites, but
Hmm.
Tom Crean's Tom Crean, and then Nova going down to the dunk without Gillespie. Providence is the most inconsistent team in the country, and their 12-12 record kind of shows that any day they can lose, any day they can win. So that's going to be a tough one. And then struggling Virginia going to Louisville, and Louisville's pretty like a pretty good unranked team. So you can see a lot of upsets today. Heck, even a struggling Indiana team going to Purdue. That's at
Hmm.
Purdue, but you never like I wouldn't be shocked if Indiana wins that game. So I think it might just be a kind of a last day of upsets for the ranked opponents today.
Yeah, and then just to kind of you hit on a lot of the ranked teams on the road. Couple ranked teams at home. We have Creighton hosting Butler tonight at around 5, and then at 5 o'clock, Mike, you gonna be riding the Gus bus or the Must bus? I'm sorry, I don't know why I say Gus bus.
You said that because of the bench
Benchwarmers. Oh, I know. I don't know why I said it now though. Is the real question? Are you riding the Must bus?
Oh, of course.
That was great interview from our guys at PMT yesterday. Great having him on. He seems like he brings a lot of energy, and I'd like to see Arkansas make a little bit of a run here as we get to the tournament.
I really, if they end up in the right bracket, I might just mess around.
He might just full send.
Yeah,
Get him with maybe Gonzaga. Yeah.
As long as they don't end up with my Michigan boys.
No, I mean that could definitely shake out. Say Gonzaga's like the 1, and then you have a Gillespie-less Villanova as your 2, and they're the 3. I mean, crazier things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's the thing too. Kind of not even just focusing solely on Arkansas, but if you are one of those teams, kind of in the 3-4 range, like maybe what region you get in could be very telling. Because like I said, I think Gonzaga, they could just very well be this good, but they're just so not tested by a lot of the good teams in the country. So they're always a big question mark come March Madness. And if you have a team like Villanova who's kind of missing one of their leaders or trending in the wrong direction for whatever reason, if you get the right lineup, then you could definitely have a favorable path to the Final Four.
Yeah, because I'd say outside of like the top like 6 teams, like the 4 teams mentioned, I'd even put like Iowa, West Virginia, heck, maybe even include Alabama as the 8 seed. Actually, no, I kind of put them down in the same group as Arkansas. So I'd say outside of that top 6, I'd say like the 6 to like 18 are all kind of like the same team to me.
Right.
So like I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of like 3s and 4s go further than the 2s, because the 3 actually could be could end up being better than 2.
Yeah, exactly. So then as far as the bubble goes, and we talked about a lot of the ranked teams so far, we have Duke UNC. So that's always a big matchup. Again, so different this year than in years past. So I don't know, Mike. What are your thoughts for this ACC? I know you kind of have a few teams highlighted here between Duke UNC. Georgia Tech winning Friday. I know Q's is done until the tournament, so I kind of just want to get your thoughts on what you think is going to shake out in the ACC here.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the best way to talk about bubbles, and I feel like this was the one solidified conference to go to, and we'll kind of hit on the rest of the NCAA after this. But we did see Georgia Tech win again yesterday on the road. Their last 4 bye. I feel like unless they really mess up in the conference tournament, I think they're going to be in the field, and they're playing pretty well right now. I think that's 5 straight for them. And then looking at these 2 teams are right next to each other, as Duke's at the very bottom of the first 4 out, and Syracuse is the first of the next 4 out. So of teams missing the bubble, they're 4 and 5. So Duke would really need this win at UNC. I don't think UNC is anywhere close to falling out of the picture.
Okay.
I think they're mostly solidified. I would take, I think, 2 straight losses to maybe like put them under question. But you're definitely going to need Duke's needed to show up today. I think they're going to need like 2. I think both Duke and Syracuse are going to need 3 wins to solidify 100% in the tournament. Maybe Duke can get it done depending on the rest of the field goals. But it should be interesting to see how you look at those teams, Duke, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse, how like Georgia Tech has like the best chance to get in. Like all looking at the bubbles. It's just such a weird year this year.
Very strange. And like you said, I think a lot's gonna a win tonight. It's almost weird. It's almost like if Duke wins tonight, they're definitely like on a much better track to get in. But if they lose, they might just be done no matter what, unless they I'd say maybe make the finals in the ACC. So a very, very pivotal game for Duke to probably determines how well they have to do in the tournament. Because I think if you beat UNC, you win maybe 1 or 2 games, depending on how that shakes out. You might still have a chance, but yeah, if you lose tonight, I think you pretty much got to win the whole thing. So, and like you said, yeah, Q's too. Don't it's just so weird thinking of these teams not firmly in the bubble, especially Duke. They're usually like a 2 seed every year. So yeah, very very strange. So again, we do have the rivalry game tonight. Crazy games seem to always happen between these two teams. Even if one's good, one's bad, they're both bad. Uh, and obviously, it's usually the case that they're both good. But again, we'll see kind of how what happens tonight. And then also you have a few teams here written down, Mike, that you're kind of shifting away from the ACC that are kind of running the bubble. Rutgers, as you mentioned, kind of at the top of the show here, that started the season ranked. Now they find themselves in the bubble. Seton Hall, Xavier, Utah State, all needing some road wins today.
Yeah, so Rutgers is now like the top team in the last 4 buys. So like they're still in pretty good shape, but they definitely need to win at Minnesota. They're actually playing right now. They're up by 9 points at the half. So I think a win today, and I think one conference tournament win, and I think they're pretty much good to go. But that'll be a good win today to kind of like get them off the Lunardi page, just to be like, we're in.
Yeah. You're just in. Just don't worry about it.
So that'll be a big win for them. And then we see Xavier as the last 4, like going to the Big East. We have Xavier as the last 4 in, and Seton Hall is literally the first team out of the tournament. According, like if you look at it, right?
Oh, the first one out.
One not out. So
yeah,
looking in the Big East, they're both playing tonight on FS1. If you want to pay attention to the bubble, you have Seton Hall at St. John's and Xavier at Marquette. Those are both 2-point spreads, with Marquette actually being the favorite in that game. Seton Hall,
okay.
So 2 Big East is kind of just beating up on each other. So that's 2 really big games tonight for paying attention to the bubble. I'd look out for. And then Utah State, Mountain West is the conference. Yes, they are. They're at Fresno State. Big favorites. They should get that W. And if they lose that one, that will be very damaging, as they are in the first 4 right now.
Yeah.
And also just in the Mountain West, a team slipping down like Rutgers is Colorado State, because they lost at Nevada last night. So this last weekend, all these tough road games you kind of just sleep on before the conference tournament could come out to bite some teams in the buttocks.
Yeah, certainly a game of musical chairs at this time of year. I think there's only so many seats, and you think maybe one team's getting in, and then, like you said, these minor things can really throw a team off. A team that you thought was a shoo-in, now they struggled on the stretch to lose a bad game here. They can find themselves right in this bubble. So, yeah, certainly a lot to look at today between the ranked matchups and like we're kind of hitting on here, the bubble. Teams kind of sitting on that bubble, whether trying to get in or maybe falling out. And then as far as tomorrow goes, 2 big games are Texas Tech, Baylor, and Wisconsin, Iowa, kind of leading the way. I usually, I like having some sort of mix of a Big 10 and a Big 12. It seems like that's kind of what we get sometimes, especially on these Sundays. So, yeah, there's stuff to watch for sure. Some highly ranked teams out there. So that should be a good Sunday watch for anyone looking for some action there.
I sneaky think both ranked teams are going to cruise the way that was a big win from Iowa last week, and I feel like it gave them a lot of confidence, because I hear that they played I think Nebraska, one of the worst teams in the Big 10 earlier this week, and they put up 100 against them. So
yeah,
I think they're kind of getting hot at a good time, and Texas Tech is not too hot right now. So
no, really not. They've kind of been slowly sliding as well over the last couple of weeks. They were hovering. I think they got as high as 7 overall. And really just taking a nosedive. All these games that were kind of like could go either way seem to not go their way. So yeah, it seems like Baylor and Iowa are definitely the favorites in both those games.
I wouldn't be shocked in the first round if like the Big 12 gets like 8 or 9 teams in, and by the end of the first round there's only like 3 left.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They're all kind of just like, besides probably Baylor and West Virginia, all kind of like in this package that's
they're good, but like
between 7 and 21.
1 week one team gets hot and then they dip down. It's like kind of all like you said, music chairs.
Yeah, it's very strange. So we'll keep an eye on what's happening in the Big 12. Again, two ranked matchups tomorrow, and then also kind of a weird dynamic, or not a weird dynamic, but kind of 2 games with a pretty highly ranked team trying to fight off a bubble team. So Houston facing Memphis, and then Michigan State. I feel like they've played a million times recently.
Well, I think we were just looking at the schedule. They played on Thursday in Ann Arbor, and then now they're going
Yeah,
to Michigan State tomorrow. I think that's
yeah,
they can get that one. That would be huge, huge for those boys. Another ranked team off the
yeah,
because they've beaten Illinois, Ohio State, and I think everyone kind of expected them, especially about how bad Michigan played against Illinois. I think on their home court.
yeah,
I think we all expected Michigan to run away with that one, but
yeah.
I would not be shocked if the Spartans come out
Round two, yeah,
round two, same matchup at home with how much they're fighting for. And Michigan, like they said, seems like they have the one seed locked up. I
yeah,
would not be shocked. And then Memphis is going to Houston, and Memphis is again on that Luzardi page, but it's, I think like the seventh team out, so they're going to need a lot of help. And
some magic here, yeah.
this game's at Houston, so
Okay,
it's a lot more. It's more of a they have more to gain, but it's harder for them. So this win could mean more. So I think like how much you can swing
hmm,
versus like how much it actually could happen. There's two games. These are two games to watch.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, pretty good Sunday slate tomorrow, as will be then just 1 week away. And I think that's really where we're going to start to see some craziness as we get into the bigger conference tournaments, as well as kind of keeping an eye on the mid majors here. So
Hey,
yeah, it's exciting. Yep.
this is when we start big time afternoon on a work day basketball next week.
Yes, yes,
Even if
that is
it's like
true.
you said, like BC Wake Forest at 1 p.m. on a
I
Tuesday.
think we're playing NC State, yeah, or something like that. Yeah, I say it every year. They just got to win. Just play like crap all year, and then win 5 in a row, and then you're in.
Yeah.
It's never happened, but
Sometimes
you
like
win
get your
some good
hopes
money
up,
then.
win one, and then like be up at half against a halfway decent team.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I think they won like a couple games. I think they had like a 12-5 upset. It might have been over NC State actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think you had a 12
But
upset, and then you played the one seed like pretty good in the first half. Like I think
yeah,
you're up
yeah,
by like 3 at the half, and you're like, it could happen, and then you lost by like 15.
yeah. Sounds about right. We need a complete overhaul of that program. Bring in John Balon. Anyway, yeah. So obviously very excited for that. Like you mentioned, kind of a lot of afternoon games happening soon. I'm already planning my setup for 2 weeks from now. I'm just going to get a lot of monitors and screens into my living room. So already planning all that out. I cannot wait for that. But yeah, so why don't we, we'll kind of hit back on that as we get into the midweek, as we kind of have the start of the tournaments here, and make some maybe predictions for the bracket. But we'll get more into college hoops on the next one. Let's shift into the pro game. So moving over to NBA, and we're going to lead as we usually do with the Celtics. It's been kind of an up and down this season. When it's been bad, it's been really bad, and they're starting to turn a corner. I don't want to get ahead of myself. They have won their last 4 going into the break. Most recently, a game that they pretty much had to win. They didn't do the best job. I was texting on the side. This was basically a pass-fail class that you take in college, and they passed. That's
Yeah,
all you can say.
they the Raptors are a good team, but they're dealing with COVID issues with I think some coaching staff, Siakam, Van Vliet, and
Oh, gee.
OG out.
Yeah.
So it really turned into the Norm Powell, Kyle Lowry.
It wasn't even Lowry though. Lowry didn't even do
Yeah,
that much. It was
yeah, he was
it was
fine.
Norm Powell and Chris
Boucher.
Boucher.
Yeah,
Boucher had 30 off the bench, I think.
30 off the bench. I mean, the team hit 21 threes. So like
Yeah, that's the thing too. I'm like, you shouldn't be this close to the team missing as many guys as they are, but at the same time, like I don't really know what, like they're not playing badly. Like I was watching it, I was just like they're just letting. I mean, you could blame the perimeter defense, but at a certain point, it's just like if a team's hot, they're hot, and the Celtics were fortunately able to kind of keep up with them. Again, another strong game. I'd say to start for Kemba, then he kind of slowed off. But I did want to hit on that he is starting to look like his old self. He's still not playing the second night of back-to-backs. But just kind of going back on the 4 games as a whole, obviously we talked about the ones from the weekend here in the last show, but also, and I know we were kind of on late for the Clipper game as well, but that was a huge win even without Kawhi Leonard there. So this team is starting to head in the right direction. Like I said, and I think we've said it multiple times, but they're going to go as Kemba goes, because we know what we have out of the Jays, but it's when they're either taken out of the game or you just need some sort of scoring beyond them. Like is Kemba there for the challenge?
Yeah. And one last thing on the Raptors, shout out Norm Powell. He's doing a great job. Even in the game before, he had 36 points. So 36-25 with that run out. Not bad. But
Yeah.
going back to the Tuesday game, it was a great, like, I know both times, like, they're pretty shorthanded. We beat the Clippers, but the fact we beat the Clippers both games this year, and I think that's the
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
I think I heard Grandy say that's the first time we swept them in 12 years or something like that.
Which is insane because the Clippers are really bad. I mean, I guess Lob City was like 10 years ago now, so it's not
Yeah.
not crazy, but
Yeah, because I think I do remember some of it. Like, I feel like we couldn't win at the Staples Center against the Clippers for like 5 straight years or something. Like,
that West Coast road trip, like yeah, it'd be like during Christmas break sometimes and everything. But yeah, no, I think
yeah,
even without Kawhi, that's still a pretty good team. So I think that was a real quality win, and just having four in a row going into the break, I think is so good for just the psyche of this team, and hopefully they come out of the All Star break with keeping that momentum going.
yeah, because the sky was falling. The
It definitely
Jays were
was.
selfish, and no matter how ugly some of these wins were, because what was the first one on the winning streak? The Friday night game,
The Yeah, Indiana.
Indiana. Like Indiana was like, there was times in that games where they were getting blown out. Like I think it was 18-4 to start, and then they almost blew it, and then the headache of the Washington game, and then
Yeah,
two good teams shorthanded. It's kind of like you can definitely like say it wasn't that this isn't as valuable as a 4 game winning streak, but at the same time, you're
yeah.
going to an all-star break, kind of celebrate our big guys, let Kemba get more rest, so hopefully he can stay
Yeah,
on this
he'll be
trajectory.
off for a week. So
So let's stay on this trajectory of being well, especially with the first game back against Brooklyn. So that's a big game, kind of right
yeah,
off.
yeah,
So I think this is very good for them, just going in with some sort of confidence and maybe making a move somewhere. So I don't know.
yeah, and that's kind of something I want to hit on as well. I think we mentioned it before, and I'll just kind of briefly hit on this before we get to some of the trivia. Is that Robert Williams has been fantastic. I've wanted to put him in the starting lineup, but I almost am wondering if they should just see if he can stay healthy first. Like again, he's had the it seems like an injury comes up every few months or something with him. So maybe you keep him off the bench for now, and then if he's showed that he can stay healthy, keep producing off the bench, then maybe you do make that shift to him into the starting lineup.
I know we've been saying it. I'm kind of on the same side as you, but I'm thinking about it more and more. I kind of maybe come playoff time when he's healthy, we might switch it up, but when like
Yeah,
the bench kind of shrinks. But right now, when he's scoring, like even from a center,
exactly.
you're
Yeah,
just saying,
yeah,
like the pick and roll he has with Pritchard, where Pritchard can one of the few Celtics to actually throw up a good lob, and he seems to be
yeah,
finishing them. So I do like kind of like that early second quarter when it's mainly bench
yeah.
guys and like maybe like just Brown out there with like Pritchard and him. It's kind of like a, that pick and roll offense, which adds another element where it's not like Brown has to
Mhm.
drive and either try to finish through traffic or kick it out to a three and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So the way we
Yeah,
are,
I mean, I'm just hoping we see more of him in some fashion. Whether and like you bring up a good point there, it is they need some sort of second unit there. So if he's able to put up points in addition to the rebounds and blocks, then yeah, maybe he's a better fit on that unit as well.
and like even if he's not starting, like he should be getting crunch minutes. And we did see
Exactly.
against the Clippers, he did get some pretty
Hmm.
big offensive rebounds and kind of kept some possessions going. And like, cause down the stretch, we were up by like, I think you heard us talking about it the last time, we were up like 8 or 10, and the next thing you know, it was a 2 point game, and you just kept some possessions alive and just drained out that clock. It kind of
Hmm.
shrunk the opportunities for the Clippers
Yeah.
to steal one. So
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah. So and again, I don't want to go too deep on this just because we hear this every year, and at the end of the day, I don't see a major move happening here. But there's been a lot of names floated out there as of late. There was a lot of one Jeremy Grant talk, which I don't really understand. The Pistons just signed him. He's only like 26 years old. I think that's a guy you can kind of build around. He's not like at the tail end of his career or anything. He's kind of right in his prime, and he took a huge leap. I don't know why they'd be in the market of trading him, even though they just signed him. So that's a weird one that I heard floated out there. I don't know.
unless they think that this is the best it's ever going to get for him.
Just try like sell high. Yeah, I mean that's definitely an option. Like he's scoring, he's averaging about 23, like I think like 23 and a half points a game. So I
Yeah.
don't know. That's obviously, I mean, it would be a great addition. It would probably, like you said, you'd have to probably overpay a little bit because his value is so high right now. Um, Games like Vucevic, which I think you really have to send everything over there for. I don't know if you could even obtain him without one of the Jays, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of it anyway.
Yeah, we can't do any lateral movement, like even like you're like getting Beal or something. It's like you can't.
Yeah, if we can't pair him with those guys, there's really no point.
Yeah, the only it's gonna be tough to really get a third guy. Like it's gonna have to be through that TPE or like tricking some team than just taking like 8 first round picks if we're gonna get a third guy to complete a big three.
Yeah. And again, I know I go back and forth with the TPE because that's something that's like, oh, it probably has better value in the offseason. But then if a team just doesn't, I think it was Chris Gasper over here was saying that like 70% of them don't even get used. So I don't want that to happen. So I'd rather just use it now to ensure that it gets used. But also, I mean, if you can guarantee something happens in the offseason, great. But another name we saw float out there was Bielitsa in Sacramento. But I'm shifting much more on Harrison Barnes. And I think he's someone that would be a fantastic fit on this team because he doesn't, we saw him in Golden State. He didn't need to be the guy. And I think he's the guy who, and I saw his 3-point percentage this year is up around 40. So that's exactly what they need. He has size. I think you could shift Marcus to the bench when he comes back if you're able to pull off a trade for him. And I don't know if Sacramento would ever do this, but there was almost a trade that Jimmy Stewart put together yesterday, and it was a lot of pieces that I was fine letting go. I think Tristan Thompson was them to kind of make the salary work. And
it was Thompson, our last 2 first rounders with Neesmith and Langford. And then we threw in Carson Edwards.
Which, I mean, and then however many picks you want too with that. I don't really care. So I don't know. I mean, again, if you think you can get better value in the offseason, great. But I think Barnes fits kind of what this team needs right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the TP is he needs, I'd say if you don't have a plan and a couple targets, like a small list of like 3 people that you can realistically use the TP on in the summer, you gotta look now. Like unless you have a complete, I think I mentioned like listening to that interview with Wick, he seemed to hint that it was more of an off-season thing they're looking at. So hopefully they have a plan and aren't just gonna be like, never gonna use it in the offseason because it has more value, and then get there and be like, who do we want? Like I really hope that they're have a plan for this.
But it's almost like when you have a player who's whose contract is up, and you're not going to re-sign him. You're almost better off trading him like a year before because you don't really have to at the time. So teams might not try to squeeze everything out of you. But again, if it gets the offseason with the TPE, teams are going to be like, well, I know you have to use this. So why don't you throw us this piece as well, or that pick and this thing. So I think that's why it's almost better to use now because you don't really have to. You're not really pigeonholed into doing that. So maybe you get a little bit better value for it.
Oh, it's a thing with me right now. I'm just it's gonna sound like a cop out, and Danny I trust. It's just gonna be like if they use it, I'm not gonna get mad once the trade deadline passes whether they use it or not.
Like, I'm all in on Barnes. That's all I'm saying. Bring me Barnes.
From what I heard, because I completely didn't know that their play-by-play guy, the Kings, is Draper.
Yeah. So I saw that he signed there in the offseason. Yeah.
So apparently, he's been texting Abby Chin on the side saying that he's not available, according to
who Barnes.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I'm just picturing him with this team, and I think it'd be such a great fit for what they need, and especially if those pieces were all it would take out the door, then that'd be perfect. But again, not an ideal world, so we'll kind of see what happens in the next few weeks here. One piece of news beyond the Celtics that kind of came out yesterday was Blake Griffin getting bought out by the Pistons. Again, they're clearly in some sort of rebuild, whether that's with or without Jeremy Grant, we'll see. But and that's another thing too. I was going to briefly say this on the Celtics. I don't even attempt to understand what the NBA cap. I don't understand it at all. And I know that is also kind of limiting what the Celtics can do with signing free agents versus trading using that TPE. But kind of going back to buyouts, I don't fully understand it. It's just like they pay you most of your contract if you just like leave now, essentially. Like
I think so.
Yeah. So you got bought up by the Pistons, and my worst nightmares are coming true. The number 1 team to sign, most likely to sign him is Brooklyn. And I really hope that's not true. I'm not even going to blame Blake at this point because you almost like there's such a fine line between like front running and going for a championship or this guy doesn't want to win. You know what I mean? It's such a fine line because if he doesn't go there, then people are going to be like, oh, does he even want to win a championship? Or I don't know. It's such a fine line for players these days.
Well, I'm not going to blame him because you got to look for like, okay, I think when you're going out, you want to look for, well, he doesn't, at least for the rest of the year, because I think it's just going to be like a rest of the year type of deal because
it'll be like a vet minimum deal. Yeah,
a vet minimum deal because he's going to get paid, get the Brinks truck backed up from Detroit, so he's not going to
exactly.
He's not going to look for another contract until the off season. So it's kind of just right now you can take money off the board. He wants to look where can I play a lot of minutes and contribute a lot to get the next contract.
Mhm.
and what's a good team to show like I can lead on a good team, and like Brooklyn is the best fit. Like
Yeah, because it's not even like they have anyone solidified at that like four
it's
position.
pretty much Durant is the 4 with Joe Harris at the 3,
Right. So there's situations maybe where you swap him and
and,
Harris out or something.
and they had to trade away a lot of their depth to get Harden, so it's kind of
No, exactly. That's and then it figures too with Brooklyn too, because what's his name's getting hot now? Like Bruce Brown.
oh yeah he was when they're in
It
there
figures.
when they're in that losing streak,
Yeah.
like when they first started losing with all 3 of them in, I was like, well,
Yeah.
we're winning the game before and Bruce Brown was playing 25 minutes, and then like Harden would come back from an injury, and then he wouldn't play, and I'm like, why aren't you playing Bruce Brown? And it seems like Steve Nash finally got that together.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of other places that make sense besides Brooklyn and the Lakers, essentially. But it seems like Brooklyn seems to be the front runner right now. There was brief talk about the Celtics having some interest there. Also, wouldn't hate that because what do they need right now? Players that aren't making any money. So that'd be again. I don't think he's coming here, but I mean, the help we can get. What's that?
Cool.
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
It would be cool,
It would be cool. It would definitely be cool. So it's
but
like a South Beach. That'd be cool too.
so just imagine that there's going to be a team with like 2014 here,
Yeah.
like here it's, or even like go back a couple years before that, like 2013, 14, whatever. This team with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant,
Mhm.
Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, coached by
Yeah.
Steve Nash.
Yeah. It's very crazy to think about. Like if you had all these guys in their prime, uh, yeah, just it's going to be very scary once the playoffs come around. I think that honestly, the best case scenario for the Celtics, which is so frustrating, is like you somehow avoid Brooklyn till the finals, and they're probably going to beat you.
Yeah,
So
it's like, oh,
it could just be the exact same thing. Let's lose the
four,
Eastern Conference Finals again.
4 to 5 years in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah,
I mean, at this point, that'd be, probably further than I would expect right now.
yeah,
So I'd take it. But
that'd be like, okay,
um,
like this year went to crap, we still got back to where we were. Okay, like next year for sure.
yeah. So
But
and briefly, sorry, go ahead.
I was, are you going to talk about the Celtics or switch to something else?
No, you just go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna flip that one last team because I saw it was the next topic that I would love to see Griffin go to is Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, I hate it because it's like you don't hear this stuff working, but you're like, no, that would actually be awesome with him and Paul and Booker in the backcourt, and then you got him
Oh,
next to Aiden. What?
that's like I pictured it with like him and Booker like adding to like the now 2 seed in the Western Conference Finals.
I
But
was gonna say
don't
that
him and
was
Chris Paul hate each
one
other.
point I was gonna. What's that?
Don't him and Chris Paul hate each other after what happened in LA?
Was it? Is it them too? I can't remember how that whole thing broke down. I know Blake obviously has some, him and the Clippers organization have some hard
Yeah.
feelings after the trade, but I don't know how that relationship kind of worked out. I'm sure he's not happy. Oh, because he requested the trade to Houston, right?
Yeah. So if they can somehow mend fences, I think that could work because you clearly saw on the court at least that worked pretty
Yeah,
well for them. So
yeah. And I'm a huge as a second team, a huge Blazers fan. So that was another team floated out there, and him with
Warriors too.
Melo and in that backcourt. But yeah, it seems like this is how we're going to be for now because he's just going to sign with Brooklyn, and they're
Yeah.
going to definitely win the East and maybe even win the title too. But I did want to also hit on the West, so we'll obviously keep an eye where Blake ends up. But yeah, All-Star break, and yeah, the two teams we expected to be the 1 and 2 in the Western Conference. That's right, the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. So
Bringing it back to the 90s for Malone and Barkley.
yeah, seriously. Or even maybe even like the mid 2000s with like the Darren Williams Jazz and the Steve Nash Amari Stoudemire Suns. So
Sure.
I guess we were due for that. And then yeah, LA teams are sitting at 3-4 right now. I think not what most people expected out west, but it's been competitive because
Treading water.
you look at the records in the West versus the East, it's completely different.
They just can't be the Wizards. You know who can? The Celtics. Cool.
Half the time.
Half the time. Well, no,
Yeah.
2 times. They beat them before.
Oh, like earlier, yeah.
Like December.
So more times than not. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so standings out there are a little funny. I mean, good for the Suns. That's awesome. I mean, they had again that great run to end the bubble last year, and it's strange though because Devin Booker, I don't know what his injury was, but he's going to be out in the All-Star game, so we'll hit on that in a sec too. But yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to see how all that shapes up. It's real competitive. Whereas in the East, it's kind of like, well, as long as you don't screw up too much, you're probably going to be in the middle, the 4 to 6 range. So yeah, there's a lot of good teams that are at the bottom of the standings that would be probably running away with fourth place in the East right now, maybe even competing for 2 and 3. So, um,
And one last comment on the standings. I would love the 4-5 matchup in the East right now, the Celtics and the Knicks.
oh yeah, bring it back to the Carmelo and Big
KG.
Three era. Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that. I actually really would love that. I say that with that would be fun, but also I need to keep an eye on the standings to see where Brooklyn ends up because they're in second now, but I have a feeling they're going to catch Philly.
Yeah, probably.
In which case, you hopefully can make some noise and hop into the 3 seed, but it does seem like they're most likely headed towards the 4. So you better hope Philly holds off Brooklyn. But yeah, so I did want to quickly hit on the game as well. So the draft was the other night, and so yeah, Devin Booker, and we'll get to him in a second. But it was the starters first. We'll hit on our Celtics to kind of begin. They will be on different teams. Tatum was picked by Kevin Durant, but not really. It's a funny situation because LeBron had the most votes overall, so he had the number 1 pick. So then Durant had the last pick, but also he had to have someone to replace himself because he's not playing in the game.
Yeah.
So pretty much the draft went down, and then it was Tatum and Beal left, who I know those guys are excited about playing together. And then once they got to the reserves, Jalen was picked by LeBron, I think the 3rd or 4th pick of the reserves, and called him Jalen Underappreciated Brown. He was throwing some great nicknames out there.
Yeah.
Much like Common at the All-Star game
Luka Magic.
Chicago. Yeah. So, I mean, first off, just initial thoughts. I actually watched the draft live, and LeBron seems so much better than Kevin Durant because guess who picked first? Kind of weird.
I was gonna say, like, how does is LeBron so good at drafting? He's been ever since they started this, and I feel like he's had a better draft.
Okay, but to be fair, I don't even think it's LeBron being good as much as his opponent not knowing what they're doing. Like he's like, oh, I'll take Giannis first, and then he picks Kyrie. And then it's like you have Embiid out there, you have Steph Curry out there. I don't know. But yeah,
Last year, Giannis went Embiid first when he wasn't as MVP caliber as there is right now, and then he picked Siakam next, and it was okay, I guess I'll just take all the good players.
I think that didn't that end up being just basically East versus West anyway.
Yeah, it did last year. One person flipped or something like that, and then you take Chris Middleton first off the bench. It's sick. He was the worst, and Durant was kind of bad too.
And then probably the funniest part of the night, people love clowning on the Utah Jazz, especially Rudy Gobert. Mitchell kind of gets thrown in there as well. And they complained the other night against Philly. I know we're kind of all over we've had a lot to talk about today, but that was kind of its own controversial. They didn't like the officiating that night in their loss to the Sixers. But the funniest part about it too, because I'm watching it, there's down to the last 3 picks, and I'm like, oh man, Sabonis was picked last year. He's going to be picked last again this year. I had the text ready to you, DeMontis, Mr. Irrelevant Sabonis, because he keeps getting picked last in these things. But then LeBron says, I need some size, so I'm going to pick DeMontis Sabonis, who is a big man. It's 6'10", 6'11". He's no short guy, but you think about the 7'5" wingspan. I'm like, he's going Gobert here. No, throws us a curveball and picks.
Well, because you see Sabonis, Mitchell, and Gobert. It's okay, the best player of those 3 is Donovan Mitchell.
Yes, exactly.
And it's okay.
Well, LeBron, LeBron did have a lot of guards, so
yeah, I need size. Yeah. It's Gobert's probably a little better than Sabonis, this thing. So they're just Sabonis, the Jazz.
Yeah, people love it. And then it's funny though, because Devin Booker did get replaced by Mike Conley, who is a first-time All-Star. So shout out to him. He's had a really good NBA career. Has been probably the best player in the league to not make an All-Star game, and obviously now that's over. But it's funny because if you think about it now, the Jazz were the last 3 players picked because Conley was an injury replacement after the draft.
Yeah, it was pretty weird, the whole Mike Conley thing last night, because it was just he got invited to the All-Star game. He didn't say why for a solid 20 minutes. And just
yeah, it was this weird cryptic thing from Shams.
And he finally said that Booker was out. Probably just wanted the vacation with Kendall Jenner. Shout out Kyle. But
oh yeah, that was a great tweet. Yeah, oh no, I'll go hang out with Kendall Jenner instead.
But again, I gotta be a little nitpicky about the selection. I'm very happy for Mike Conley. And who knows if he actually was or just was okay, be ready. Maybe they told him be ready, make this your moment. But you can definitely argue that players like DeMar DeRozan or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are having better years. But
yeah,
that doesn't need to take away from his moment. Congratulations.
No, I know. I think sometimes they do kind of look at the whole body of work sometimes. Just like, all right, this guy's like had enough. We've already had a couple injury replacements, but like, let's get him in now. So, and I did want to quickly hit on, I know we have a few other sports to get to, and I don't want to keep us too long here, but I did want to see if you had any picks for, I know sometimes I might come out of a little bit of retirement and throw some wagers on the competitions tomorrow. And I'm gonna start with 3-point because I don't see any way Steph doesn't win this, if we're being honest.
I mean,
Especially with Booker pulling out and Conley going in.
we've said this before, and I think he's been in it several times, and he's only won once. I think he's like 1 in 5.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see if they. I want to see if I can find odds.
Because I'm like, I love Tatum and Brown, but like they don't see, like they're good 3-point shooters, but I don't see them like necessarily doing well in this sort of competition here. So yeah, because I'm just like Donovan Mitchell again, a good, like these are all good 3-point shooters. Zach LaVine as well. He might be my number 2, but I don't
Yeah,
know. I think Steph's gonna run away for this. I think this is tailor made for his game. I think the only person that could beat him in this is Clay. So I don't know. He probably has like the betting odds are probably terrible for him, but I think he's gonna.
it's plus 120 for Curry, and then
Yeah.
tied for the second best odds are actually Conley and
Okay.
Zach LaVine for plus 350. And then Donovan Mitchell plus 450. And then the worst two odds are our boys at plus 600, Brown and Tatum.
Yeah, I just don't see like they're more. I don't know. Like they I don't know. I don't see them being good at this competition. I think Steph's gonna run away with that one. Do you agree? Or do you have another pick?
I I guess if to be different, I'm going to pick Zach LaVine.
Okay. All right. Perfect. The skills competition. That's an interesting one too. It seems like a big guy comes out of this more often than not, but I don't know. I'm torn on this one. This actually seems like it could be a good competition.
Okay, so odds are tied for first. Luca and
Luca is
Chris
probably
Paul.
number one, right?
Luca and
Chris
Chris
Paul.
Paul
Okay.
are tied at plus 175. Then sneaky could be my pick. Julius Randle plus
I
350.
was thinking Randall, but now I'm sneaky thinking Vucevic. I feel like he's made a run of these things before. I might.
Sabonis plus 400. Vucevic plus 500. And
Oh, I might have thrown down on that one.
poor
It's a good.
Bobby 650.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I'm very underwhelmed. Actually, first I think yeah, I'm gonna decide between go if I go guard, I probably go Luca, and then if not, I go Vucevic. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Randall did too. Just pulling that out, and then the no contest is overwhelming, so I'm just gonna say Obi Toppin.
It's Cash and Stanley minus 110.
Oh
Anthony
wow,
Towns plus 300. And then Might Ride plus 150. Ain't no stopping.
Obi Toppin. All right. So
Go
yeah,
big,
that'll
big
happen
Knicks
during the
tomorrow. I
what's
go
that?
back to back Knicks. Julius
Just
Randle.
next tape. So yeah, we'll have I think the competitions, the skills and 3-pointer at 6:30 before the game, and the dunks at the halftime break. So we have a few other items here. We might keep it pretty brief. Bruins Caps. I know they played on was that Wednesday night, right?
Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah. So right, yeah, last night too. So I'm thinking of more the kind of fireworks that came out of the game on Wednesday. Yeah, the return of Chara, obviously very. It would have been nice if fans were in the building for it. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm sure that when he comes back again and there's fans, that he'll have kind of another edition of that night. And then there was the Ovechkin Frederick incident that happened. So
Yeah.
I'll let you kind of take that one here, Mike.
Yeah. So this Wednesday night, I'm really mad. I missed most of this game. I mean, the two games. I missed the whole game last night. I was able to tune in for the third period in
Mm-hmm.
overtime on Wednesday. Not too mad I missed the first two periods because I tuned in and I saw shots for 11-9 after like 11-9 total after 40 minutes of hockey. So it seemed like a pretty like in the middle of the hockey rink, kind of a lot of missed block shots. So it seemed pretty boring. But then the third period was pretty wild. The scoring started off with Marchand getting a nice little steal. And even Pierre McGuire was saying keep his name in the running for Selke, which would be the first winger since I think 03 to win the Selke.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
that's something to keep your eye on. And then Travis Frederick just won the fight Alexander Ovechkin the rest of the game. because there was one time, like a couple minutes after the goal, he like got in the corner, dropped his gloves, and Ovi just laughed at him. And then after that, it seemed like the Capitals just took over the game because
Yeah.
the ice riffing got slanted, Largeller tied it up, and then right around with 5 minutes left in the game or something like that, Frederick went bad at Ovechkin and kind of like hit him funny, and then all of a sudden, as he's skating away, Ovechkin put his stick between Frederick's legs and went up and hit him in the nuts. It was just like, I was very confused watching the game. Like, what? And if I cousins Ovechkin, even if against a Bruin, I thought it was funny.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah.
And they both got minors, and there was a 4-4 went to nothing, went to overtime. Again, more slanted ice. I think Tuukka Rask might be the best 3-on-3 goalie of all time. He had some ridiculous saves.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
The Bruins had one chance, but DeBrusk couldn't score on the doorstep, and then went to a shootout. DeBrusk was the first scorer, missed, and then they ended up winning the shootout 1-0. So
yeah,
pretty wild game Wednesday.
Rebound last night, right?
Yeah, but that was even more of a wild game. I'm really mad I missed it because Tom Wilson, he went full Tom Wilson.
Oh, that's always great to hear.
Yeah, he had a really high hit on Brandon Carlo. Brandon Carlo actually got hospitalized. How bad the hit was. So it was a very Tom Wilson. I think he already has an in-person hearing scheduled to talk about the hit. So he'll probably be missing some games. But the team really kind of rallied around that. Marchand had 2 goals. There was a couple fights, both Frederick and Tenorti. I think Tenorti had a big fight against. They both fought Wilson after it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it seems like it was nice to pick up Tenorti, like as Barry Melrose was saying. I watched a little clip this morning. It was we run a lot of young defensemen out there, and with some injuries, we decided to bring in one older. He's like the one guy that's 29. The rest are all like 25 and under. So he's not the most skilled guy, but he kind of was nice to kind of get in there and kind of chuck some ducks.
It's funny though, because you're talking about this exciting game. It was 5-1, so it's not like it was.
It seemed like it was fireworks early, and it's exciting for us. It was fireworks early in the first period in a close hot game.
Yeah. Then that can definitely happen in hockey.
I think it was like 1-0 after 1 in a close, and then it was like a second period.
Yeah.
S-pump, as Whitney would say. Halak had a good game. I think he had like 38 saves. So.
Yeah, awesome. So wanted to hit on them. I know we were kind of running along on our basketball talk, so we just wanted to quickly hit on that. Also, Mike, this our theories being proven even further that the NHL just recycles the same 35 to 40 coaches. Flames fired their head coach, and Daryl Sutter took over. So, so our theory holds true. Shout out to Nick Krasko. He DM'd me that the other day. Just saying, another retread for the NHL. We won't get too deep into NFL talk. I just wanted to kind of make a couple notes here as we shift gears there. The Russell Wilson talk seems more serious than I think I initially thought. It seems like they are taking calls on him. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. I think it's something that I thought was a foregone conclusion that he was coming back, and he probably still will, but this talk seems a little bit more serious than I initially thought.
Yeah, it could just be like getting packages, and if they don't make a move this year, if there's another down year, maybe it's like, hey, is that offer still on the table? We'll come next offseason. But hey, they're at least answering the phone, Elisa Houston.
Yeah. Seriously, I know. We'll still keep an eye on the Deshaun situation, the standoff going on down there. And then a little bit of draft talk. Again, won't get too deep. I know there's another addition. I don't know if this was Kuiper and McShay, but from a Patriots point of view, they had Micah Parsons falling to 15, the Penn State linebacker. I'd honestly love to pick. As much as they need a quarterback, you could see a run on quarterbacks before you, and then the wide receivers are also going to get filled in there. We know Penei Sewell is going to go in there. On the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be likely Surtain and Farley. So by the time all that happens and the trickle down, you're going to have a really good pick of the litter from a front seven standpoint. Yeah,
so because we are getting older, I think we're going to lose a couple to free agency. I know we are going to get like Hightower back, and heck, who knows with Van Noy's, because that's one thing we missed. Van Noy got cut after his first
year.
Exactly.
Yeah, Kyle Van Noy.
Who knows if that reunion's going to happen? But I'm at this point, like, I don't see us trading up for a quarterback. I don't see any of these highly touted receivers like Waddle. Waddle's the only one I think would have a chance to fall.
Yeah.
I really don't think Pitts will fall either. I'm a huge Kyle Pitts guy, but I don't think he's going to get to us. So at this point,
that's another guy too. Yeah.
I just really hope there's such a run on offensive players that we can get something to kind of bolster up our front seven. And Micah Parsons is like getting as equal grades as your boy Luke Kuechly, coming out of the
Yeah.
draft. So
Yeah. Or even if not, I never pronounce his name, the linebacker from Notre Dame. He could be there as well, even if Parsons does go off. I think he'd be a great pick as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would really hope to get Parsons and kind of shift to like a 3-4 and have him and Hightower in the middle.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the last couple years, Hightower kind of handed off because he's getting older and his injuries kind of are adding up.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that'd be great because you're talking like you could see 5 quarterbacks going off the board before the Patriots even pick. If teams want to, it's obviously going to be Lawrence and Wilson up at the top. You got to think Fields is going to go, Trey Lance, and then Mac Jones too is rising up the board. So that's 5 guys. You're talking about the 3 wide receivers, Pitts at tight end, Panay Sewell. That's already like 10 guys right there, and then you mix and match. Like I said, the corners in there, that's 12 to 13 guys. And yeah, that leaves you a very good player falling to 15.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if a defensive player doesn't get drafted until the 10th pick, which means 5 quarterback. Like you're even like Pitts could even fall, but I don't think he's gonna get to 15. Like I wouldn't be shocked if it's 5 quarterbacks, Sewell, and then 3 receivers or 2 in Pitts.
Yeah. I think they could very well make up the top 9 or 10 there. So Pats will be a good player. And I know they kind of mentioned this on a strategy that I don't hate because I don't think the Patriots will trade up into the top 10 or anything like that to get the quarterback. But I almost don't hate trading up from the second round to get late in the first, maybe sneaking in a Kellen Mond, who did have a good trade from Chris Sanders. I initially laughed at his list, but then I saw his rankings from years past, and he was actually pretty spot on. He had Lamar as the top quarterback from 2018, even though he ended up being the 5th quarterback in that draft. And the order was pretty spot on, too. It was like him and then like Baker and Josh Allen after that, and then kind of a drop off to Darnold and then obviously Josh Rosen. So I don't know if Kellen Mond has, maybe one of these under the radar guys, they could potentially either, get him late in the first or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just judging it off of like kind of seniors, great in college, but didn't really expect to like go too high in the draft. Like maybe he's like in like similar colored SEC schools, like who knows, maybe just Dak, like kind of like a thing like Dak. And he's kind of just like people were like going more towards that.
It's the same one. Didn't they go to the same school? Isn't Mond
Texas A&M.
It must be the similar colors, and it always throws me off that. No, that's so right. I should have known that.
Like I really like Dak Vaughn. Like he was good in college. They're ranked. Like him and Russell Wilson, same thing. Like they're good colleges ranked. Why are they like falling so far behind? So maybe like
it's not that complicated.
I thought like I was seeing Mond going in like the 5th round too. And I was like kind of shocked. I'm like I thought he should at least be like a day 2 pick. So like now he might be moving up draft boards. So
yeah, he might be late first, or I mean I don't know if you want to roll the dice and wait till the 2nd, but
or Trask.
I wouldn't hate that strategy. Like Ian Book mid rounds. But they got to take someone in some way.
Someone in a veteran.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. So yeah, we just have a few cleanup items. I know we kind of meant to talk about today last weekend. I know you kind of saw a lot of these picks, Mike, and after the whole Tiger accident, a lot of players that probably grew up watching him and were obviously huge fans of him. A lot of them wore red on Sunday, so nice gesture there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. It kind of stinks when like you open up the notes app on Friday afternoon and realize you got 2 things you
forgot to add that.
Wrote down over the weekend. I was like, crap, I forgot to say that on Tuesday. But that was one thing I saw from the PGA last weekend. It was an awesome scene. I saw like 15 to 20 golfers which wearing red shirts, even if they weren't even Nike sponsored. They're just wearing a red shirt out there. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. And another note you had was a couple of spring training standing ovations. Obviously, the first I'm going to lead with probably the more telling one. It was a fantastic moment with Trey Mancini, just seeing him come back, fighting cancer and being able to play again. It's just a great moment all around.
Yeah, and even like if you got to know him, like I listened to a couple of interviews with him, he's just the nice. Apparently, if you know him, he's like the nicest guy in the MLB, and you stink to see what happened. And seems like Baltimore loves him, and he had a really good year in 2019 before the diagnosis and of course the COVID-19 shutdown. So really happy to see him back in the baseball field, and I think he's going to be playing well. And then the second one we wanted to mention is more of a lighter note. It was of course the limited capacity crowds down in Florida. Nolan Arenado's first at bat as a Cardinal, the standing ovation from the Cardinals fans. So as much as we give them crap as they are, he's at the self-proclaimed best fans in baseball. They do treat all their players very nicely.
Yeah, until he goes 2 for 30, and then they want to kill him and his entire family on Twitter. I'm just saying. I've seen them before. They did it with David Freese. They've done it. They've done it before. What? So you laughing at that one?
No, no, she dropped the plate and it made a noise, and she thought she was making noise in the background. So.
Oh no, I thought it was my comment about Cardinals fans and their aggressive Twitter behavior, but that's also a thing. And then, Mike, I saw you saw a note here, or saw a note you had on the Wooden Award. Was that for the women's hopes here?
Yeah, so I misread. I wrote it down at first, but I misread the headline. Both the men's and women's, they put their finalists down to 15. So I mentioned earlier how Gillespie, Robinson Earl, and like Kate
Mhm.
Cunningham and so on were all nominated. So you don't really see a lot of true freshmen get nominated, especially for the Wooden Award, as like you kind of get like the glorified seniors.
Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out because we haven't touched on women's basketball yet in this podcast. Paige Buchers from UConn. She's going to be the next great star. I watched one of their games when they played Tennessee, and she completely took over the game, and they won in overtime.
Mhm.
So
That's crazy.
it might not have been
Only
Tennessee.
freshman on there.
They played Tennessee and won, and I think it was like the second. I think the second ranked team in the country. Whatever. She was going off, and I think she's going to set records for UConn as well in the NCAA. And she is the only freshman on the Women War finalist list, and I would say she has an outside chance of winning. So I wanted to give her a shout out, and I think we will be for years to come.
Yeah, she could be the next. Latest probably being Brianna Stewart
Yeah,
to really dominate in that UConn uniform, and
like,
could have another one on there. A couple championships coming
and
up.
I like it too because she's like in like all these like dominant college basketball players are all like kind of like power forwards, like centers. She's like a
Yeah.
shooting guard. She's small as heck.
Oh, so back to like that's almost like back to like the Diana
Yeah,
Taurasi days.
Taurasi. Yeah, I mean, like look, she's just a stone cold, like kind of like short and like scrawny, but any mid range shot, she just is
Assassin.
nothing but nothing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
when she's on fire,
That's
you get to
awesome.
watch her. It's insane to watch. So I have to give basketball some shout out.
Absolutely. And yeah, like sometimes we'll on the show here, we unfortunately have another RIP out there. So Mark Pavlich, a member of the Miracle on Ice team, passed away yesterday. So obviously, such a legendary team. Again, we obviously weren't born for that, so a lot of our knowledge is based off the movie, but just a fantastic story. That what they were able to do there at Lake Placid, and obviously really sad, anytime we lose someone from that team.
Yeah, again, that was 16 years before I was born, so it's all from the '04 movie. And I feel like just from the movie, I feel like I could be wrong in this. I feel like every time I looked up in the movie, it was a game. Oh, Pavlich scores. Pavlich scores. I'm like, it seemed like he was like one of like the
Yeah. Like
guy
you think about all the guys that got a lot of screen time, but then like if you look at the guys that actually scored,
the Coneheads.
the Conehead line, yeah.
So
So
yeah, and I think it
I'm
was
gonna have to watch that again soon.
yeah, and I think I did some reading. It might have been CTE involved too, which another.
Yeah, it's so tough. I mean, especially for guys that played back then, and there was like this stigma against the correct protective gear and all that stuff that they kind of get. It's really a shame that there wasn't kind of some of the protocols in place now. So yeah, obviously RIP to him and the family and everyone involved with that team there. So kind of wanted to end the show there, give a quick shout out. I know we had a lot to talk about today, so ended on a few notes there. And Mike, looks like you might even have one more.
It's not breaking, but one last thing to talk about possible trade acquisitions. Timberwolves, 76ers, Heat, Mavericks, Pelicans, and Celtics eyeing Larry Nance Jr.
Interesting. I don't know if that's exactly what we need right now, but
But just
because just yeah, no, but no, thanks for putting that out there. I'm just like now I'm like reflecting and analyzing it myself, and I was like, I don't know if that's exactly what the Celtics are missing right now, but yeah, all right. So that's kind of all we had today. We're getting closer and closer to the bracket coming out. We're again a week away. We might shift our schedule around to kind of go with the Selection Sunday and then the preview of the first round, and so we'll kind of the situation is pretty fluid. We'll kind of plan it out as it comes, but probably be back midweek, either Tuesday or Wednesday coming up this week with maybe even a better idea of how the tournament is going to shape out, and obviously whatever happens beyond the tournament in other sports along the way.
Yep, and I guess update on scores from college basketball. Florida State's now down to a 10-point game, and Loyola Chicago is up 16 as they approach halftime. So
Loyola looks like they're definitely headed to their conference tournament championship game, and yeah, we'll see if Florida State can complete a comeback here against Notre Dame. And we have a great Saturday ahead of us. Great Sunday too. We'll see everything that shakes out between now and our next episode. So until then, I hope everyone has a great Saturday, a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you guys later.